let that finish playing out. Got that. Good deal. Good to see everybody. I'm still just getting caught up. So give me a moment. Oh, Matt was in first. Welcome in, Matt. Jane right behind them. Good to see you both, Matt and Jane. And Kaya Matara's here. Tenekoe, welcome in. Should already be live on YouTube. Thank you. Good looking out. Let me see, though, that this works. Did that? I don't see it. Hey, there it is. It just took a minute. Good. Free Palestine, absolutely. Yeah, welcome in, everybody. Good to see you all. Yes, there was lag. When I first started the stream, I had a whole bunch of other stuff up still. Because the time to start, excuse me, let me just go back to here. Let's get rid of that. And go to just me. There we go. Right, as I was getting ready to go live, as I was preparing, the time snuck up on me. And so I went live, but then I still had a whole bunch of other stuff open, school stuff. So my school emails, just Outlook is a massive resource hog with regard to how much RAM, how much CPU, I don't know what to say after that. CPU usage. But also with bandwidth. Just being on Outlook uses a lot of my internet. And, oh, you know what? Let me check and make sure. I have closed all the other things too. Because we want all the things to be closed. Yeah, that's everything. Yes. Good, good. All right, good. We're live. No, I've got 32 gigs of RAM. The last time I looked, that's what it was. RAM is usually not that big of a problem. I use up to about 50% of that at a given time. So I never come close to using all of my RAM, and I rarely use any more than 10% of my CPU, or whatever that. But yeah, 32 is, I think, not bad. I'm thinking about I would like a laptop. So in a month and a half, I will have one class that is ongoing, but it's going to be my summer, and I'm going to be at music festivals, relaxing, doing stuff with my time that I would like to spend doing with my time that isn't, constantly dealing with students. Though I do want to vent a little bit about students today, not too much, but there's a situation in particular that's absolutely driving me. In fact, that's how I'm going to start. So part of the reason that I've had difficulty getting caught up with stuff and why I didn't stream on Wednesday is, okay, it should be the case. It should be the case that when we all get back after our midterm, right? Because we have a midterm, we don't have any class, I don't have any other assignments during that week. It's just midterm. And after the midterm, it's spring break. So after we come back from the break, after students have had 2 weeks with no assignments and nothing going on, nobody should be behind. Or the students who are still at this point behind need to be removed from the class, because if you are 3 or 4 weeks behind at this point, we only have 6 left. Right? 2/3 of the class is done. And if you are still several weeks behind, the chances that you're going to get all of a sudden all caught up and, right, it's, so this is the time of the semester that instructors do administrative withdrawals. And this is just some advice to any college students that are out there. If your instructor formally recommends that you be withdrawn from the class such that they have filed the paperwork, it's too late. At this point, it's too late for you to emphatically promise that you take the course seriously and you are going to get caught up and you're... No. This makes you an asshole. And let me explain, right? Because for weeks, I have had extra work to do every week because of you. When you don't do your work, I have to make a whole bunch of notes and I have to go into a whole other system. I have to let your academic advisor know. I have to start a whole bunch of processes, and then I've got to keep up with this week after week. When you don't show up to class and you don't turn in your assignments, you create more work for me to do. Right? So I'm already doing more work every week because you're not doing your work. And then when I have to go through the process of withdrawing you, guess what? That's an hour worth more of work that I have to do, where I've got to fill out the form. I've got to look a whole bunch of information up. I've got to contact a whole bunch of people. It's a process that you are making me do more work because you won't show up to do your work. And then I get a whole bunch of other people involved, and those people have extra work to do now too. You're making everybody do a whole lot more extra work because you won't do your work. And then when I go through all of that, and step after step, I've been sending you emails week after week, you finally get back to me and you say, please, instructor, I'm begging you, please don't remove me from the course. I have to do a whole bunch more extra work and then get a whole bunch of other people involved and make them do a whole lot of extra work because you won't do your work. And at the end of the day, this student is just probably going to fail anyways because, again, they've had several weeks, several opportunities to get caught up, several opportunities to show up and do some of the assignments, and they've done none. And well, this is that there are other students who are doing their work, and I would rather be spending my time with those students, helping those students, giving them guidance, giving them feedback, but instead I'm spending my time doing a bunch of extra bullshit work for you because you won't show up. And when I finally remove you from my class so that I don't have to do a whole bunch of work, and you reach out and want me to readmit you to the fucking class, are you fucking kidding me? I have to do another hour and a half of work, track down a whole bunch of other people, file a whole bunch of more paperwork? No! You are an asshole, and you should have fucking taken the opportunities to get caught up when you had the opportunities to get caught up. It's the end of the semester. Right, and like the thing that I don't get is the student is already several weeks behind in the discussion board, several weeks behind with regard to the short essays that they have to write, weeks worth of work that they are behind on. They haven't even started on their application essay, which is due in 2 fucking weeks. How are you going to pass the class if you can't? I didn't expect to get this. Whew. Sorry, I'll get cut back up with chat now. It's frustrating. It's frustrating is all. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Welcome in. Good to see you. Yeah, and that's the thing. And I didn't even know that this student was active military. So, and that's the GI is involved, and there's a whole military group of board of people who approve financial aid for students and stuff, and I've got to get with them and talk with them and figure out what's going on, what we can do, if we can do anything at all, and I don't think so, right? I'm pretty sure that the student is fucked, and I don't. All right, hold on. Yeah, so my academic advisors actually pay attention to students. Well, yes and no. That's I can't speak for everybody. But there are a number of clearly very dedicated academic advisors that reach out to me. They send me long emails with lots of details and lots of ideas, lots of, because they want to be there for the students, and that I have had lots of interactions with lots of amazing counselors, and we call them student success coaches. And they do, yeah, and that's true, Jane. It is a little bit of crash out, and it is crash out because it's an amazing amount, and it's really just I'm taking an awful lot of aggression out on one single student in this incident, and part of the frustration is that there are a number of students. Right, all semester. I've got one in particular who isn't this student that I'm complaining about at all. Another student that has caused me weeks and weeks and weeks of other anxiety and work and stress for the same reason. But they finally got it together 2 weeks ago, right, when I finally emailed them and said, hey, I'm going to remove you from the class. They got their shit together. Right, they responded and said immediately, no, professor, don't remove me from the class. I'll start turning in assignments tomorrow. And then they did. And now they're caught up. And now that's a student that I'm happy to give feedback to, that I'm happy to work with because they're meeting me halfway. That's fine, right? But for weeks, they were also a source of aggravation. And there's, 6 or 7 that's on my list every week, or week after week. I wouldn't say it's some students are on that list every week, but week after week it's a different list. A different group of people is sick, and then I've got to go and figure out, well, they've got two absences here, but one of those is excused, and and I've got to retrace all of our emails, and goal achievement. Pays a living stipend, not just tuition. Well, and they were getting paid to go to school and didn't do the work. Yes. Yes. It's not your responsibility to work. so hard at the end of the semester. You gave them the opportunity between the due dates and now, right? And that's, yeah. The the part of what I'm frustrated about is I don't like the idea of taking autonomy away from the students. I like for them to be able to have complete control over their decisions. But in this kind of situation, I can't. You know, there's nothing that I can do in this situation, actually. I did all of the things that I was supposed to do. I notified them Monday that they were going to be withdrawn from the course on Wednesday, and then on Wednesday I forgot to process it. So it didn't even go through until yesterday, right? So it didn't even process until yesterday. And they emailed me today. And again, just for the record, in case this wasn't clear, every single week when I do attendance and they have a 0 because they haven't turned in their assignment, I email that student. Every single week that they miss, the week after week after week after week, I'm reaching out saying, hey, if there's something going on, let me know. Hey, if there's some kind of circumstance, hey, if you're sick, well, I need, and nothing. Just nothing. I don't hear anything from them week after week after week. And then anyway, that's enough being mad about that. I want to take a second and be excited about Noisy, because I did not know that Noisy got partner. Congratulations, Noisy. That's fucking awesome. That's a big W. And thank you, Matt, for letting me know. I probably should have said something about that before I went off on my rant and where I was just yelling and screaming about the student. But let me see. Oh, and then I haven't read this whole thing from Kaimatara. Let me get this. I finished another article. If you'd like to read it today, I decided to stop relying on the Substack text to speech, both because it wouldn't work all the time, but also because it would pronounce Maori words poorly. Yeah, I'd noticed that too. It does a terrible job with that. So from now on, including on the one I just wrote, I'm putting it through my NZ accent text to speech generator and uploading it. Oh, wow. That's kind of cool. That's a really good idea. I did not know that such a thing was available. That's super cool. Yeah, and you're right, Matt. Like 100%. And rationally, I know that. But also the emotional teacher, the instructor, the part of me that got me to want to do this job in the first place, wants to do everything, right? Wants to do everything to try to help the student, even when it's frustrating, even when it's a whole lot of extra work, even when it absolutely pisses me off, because situations like this, I got to admit, really kind of get me hot, right? It seems like I'm not cool about this. But despite that, right? Even if I'm angry and upset, I don't want to not give the opportunity to the student in this, but you are right? I've given more than enough opportunity for the student, and they've hung themselves with the rope I've given them, and now they want to cry to me about it, and I'm still gonna feel bad, right? As I watch the student hanging, it's their fault. They hung themselves with that rope that I gave them. But thanks for clipping that. That's awesome. It is really a big W for Noisy, and I don't want to diminish that. That's really a cool thing. Let me take a second and be excited about Noisy, because I did not know that Noisy got partner. Congratulations, Noisy. That's fucking awesome. That's a big W. Yeah, I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you for the clip. Yeah. And I'll go in, they'll stream later this afternoon, I would imagine, this evening. Oh, I won't be able to. That reminds me. Good. Before I forget. So, I've moved the time back. So we started later than we used to. We're starting at 3, which is on time for the new schedule, but I've got a thing going on this afternoon. I'm gonna go be social with other people and hang out and do stuff. And the social thing that I'm gonna do starts in 2 hours. So so this won't be a long stream. But there are things that I want to get accomplished before we, it's not going to be a short stream. It's not, I'm not going to stream for 30 or 40 minutes and then cut. It'll probably be about an hour and a half is what I'm thinking. Maybe more like 2 hours probably total with everything, because I babble an awful lot. Fridays are 50-50 for them. Okay. Oh, just a reminder, when are we watching the 2 videos about religion I put in the Discord? Thank you for reminding me, Jane, because I hadn't forgot about the videos, but I had forgot to include those in the conversation about the roadmap going forward, because that is what we're going to be thinking about. So we do want to do that. Both of them are going to be very important for where we're going with regard to the ontology of what we're talking about. The Reaper and the Worker have in common. That's a short article. Good. I mean, not good that it's short, but it looks good is what I meant. From a quick survey. Good, and this is going to tie a lot of that stuff together too, not surprisingly. Good. But I don't think that we'll have time to get to this or those videos today, Jane. Because I've got a social engagement this afternoon, so I'll be heading off to do that soon. But I do have something that's kind of a special treat for today, and we'll probably talk about this again a later time. I can't imagine that this is the only time that we're gonna talk about it. It's gonna come up, but so let me start this. Let me pull up this first. So when we were going over the document last, okay, good. So when we were going over the document last, and I have made some changes to it, I'm trying to get us back to this part of the outline that's specifically about the ontology. Can you all read that text? With my current setup, my view of the display that you all can see is kind of too small, so I can't read any of the text. So hopefully you all can read this text in this view. The idea is we want to get back to working through some of this stuff. This is the definition. Actually, here, let's start up here. So we've got the definition of socialism that we're operating on, and that communism is a decommodified and global socialism. We still need to work out a whole bunch of stuff with regard to the state. When we start getting into conversations about socialism, it seems that that's going to be unavoidable. That's something that we keep tripping over. So we will want to move up, dealing with setting clear terms and definitions for what we mean by state, or when we don't mean state, what do we mean, right? And setting clear thresholds for these the idea. This is kind of what I want to spend some time talking about today, because I'm not sure. I got kind of caught up in this aspect of it when it came up. But Matt, I think you were the one that brought this up on stream first, that socialism allows for commodification. I think that was your comment, the difference between what we currently have and who benefits. And then I was getting caught up on this. If we have commodification, we necessarily have alienation, and I didn't get to your point, and I don't know what your point was, right? And I don't I'm not sure what you mean, what you mean by commodification, and so this is one of the things that I want to talk about today is commodification. So in that note, or along those lines, in that spirit, is it, no, which one did I make it? This one. In that spirit, oh, you can't see the top. This is a paper that I wrote when I was in undergrad, when I was in an anarchist class, or a class about anarchism. So this is one of my old, there we go. One of my old essays, and and I thought that it would be kind of interesting. The reason why I wanted to go over this specifically is because in this essay I'm dealing with mediation and commodity, as I'm trying to hold on, as treated by Murray Bookchin in anarchism. Oh, excuse me, post-scarcity anarchism. I don't have time to reread this whole book again. It's been a long time since I've read this book, so I'm hoping that I can read this this essay that I wrote about mediation and commodity, to help me understand Murray Bookchin's conception of mediation and commodity, to better understand commodification, whether it's a necessary thing, or whether well, what I'm trying to argue here, let me go to my concern that we should have about Bookchin's claim is twofold. First, is Bookchin correct in believing the bourgeoisie commodity system is responsible for changing social relationships from face-to-face to interactions which mediate and to mediated and impersonal relationships. Second is the form of mediation discussed here by Bookchin, saying their name wrong, Bookchin, necessarily beneficial or toxic for human society, right? So these are the things, the central claims that are going to be outlined in this work. Is Bookchin correct about mediated and impersonal relationships? And is this kind of mediation necessarily beneficial, or is it necessarily toxic? Is it either right of these? And so I think that would be kind of a fun thing to do today. to talk about this to get a little bit more clarity with regard to what we mean by there we go. Now we can finally get to the top of it. Okay. Nothing in between. Okay. Too far and not far enough. Just nothing in between. I got it. Okay. I don't like it there after all. I was going to try and change the view, but I think that's going to be the best view that we can get. Yes, we will. Commodity and commodification will be discussed in the essay, I'm pretty sure. But let me get caught up on chat. My next article, Kai Matara says, my next article will be next article I'll be writing is Why I Stopped Rebelling, which sounds admittedly jaded, but it's not. Rather, it argues at looking at the etymology of revolution is going around. Not clashing, but going around. Oh, okay. Looking at the etymology of revolution is going around. Not clashing, but going around. I'll elaborate more in my next article if it doesn't make any sense yet. Well, it kind of does already, right? And that for the many reasons that I've talked about on the stream over and over and over and over again. At no point is how to make this point more succinct. Any attempt to go to war with capitalism will always fail. Capitalism will always win if we go to war with it, right? And Marx didn't say anything about going to war with capitalism. What Marx said is what we need to focus on is identifying the material conditions which enable capitalism, and we need to be looking for ways that we can undermine and eliminate those necessary conditions. What we want to do instead of going to war with capitalism is undermine its material conditions while creating the material conditions for a revolutionary tomorrow where the working class is prepared to seize the means of production and to determine for themselves their own conditions. Right? That's a process that where we have to create vacuums of power, or we need to create structures which are not designed at going to war, right, with capitalism. An excerpt. Now by all measures, Hongi Hika had every material reason to become a tyrant. He had muskets, which gave him a monopoly on force, military victory, which gave him credibility, European recognition, gave him external legitimacy, but at home they would not listen to him. Importantly, he did not say he would resist him, but that he would not hearken to anything he might say. I think something might have gotten lost in translation there. I thought about the words and thought about it again. This Rangatira was powerful. He had the guns, the troops, and even the settlers backing, and he just stopped by being ignored. and was just stopped. But at home they would not listen to him. Importantly, he did not say, wait, importantly, he did not say they would resist him. Okay, now I got it. He did not say they would resist him, but that they would not hearken to anything he might say. Gotcha. Now I understand. You said it perfectly. I just read it wrong. I thought about the words of Hongi Hika and thought about it again. He had the guns of troops and he just stopped. This rate, nobody will dismantle capitalism. At this rate, nobody will need to dismantle capitalism. Seems like it to be doing that itself. We need to be ready and organized when it happens so everybody can swim down. Concept from Finding Nemo, and we can break free. I think that that's actually exactly right. Wax Nightmare, welcome in. We have to create structures that define capitalism economically using the same instruments of oppression against them. Create structures that defeat capitalism. No, that is not correct. We do not want to create structures that defeat capitalism economically. Davey, I figured it out, Kaimatara. Thank you, though. Yeah, I was just reading it wrong. You said it right the first time. I just read it wrong. You're on his mid. What does mid mean? 2002. The military was defeated by itself in a war game where the general on the enemy team took... Oh, yeah, no, I heard about this. We learned absolutely nothing and removed the general. That one redid the war game in a rigged fashion. Yeah. Yes, I remember hearing about this, that there was a general who defended Iran's position, right? And did a war game with other generals who were acting as though they were United States, and this one general was acting as Iran. That's I think what you were talking about. Asymmetric warfare against us. Maybe it was a different one that I'm thinking of. But it's something that, yeah. I don't know a whole lot about it. It's something that I've heard a few other streamers talking about, so I don't actually know the details of it, but it is something that I'm aware of. This is what influenced the subtitle of this article, Revolutions Go Around. And the words of Hongi Hika say exactly why. That power is a throne if most people see it as just a rickety chair. What power is a throne? What power is a throne if most people see it as a rickety chair? Okay, yes. Well, and that's a good way to think about it too. Right. Does a swim down concept make sense with yes, because we're caught in the current. Right, it does. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but but I think I remember it well enough. Welcome in, Eleni. Good to see you. Well, here's the thing that Nightmare is saying: there are systems America set up to exploit people. Now we can use them against America. Those systems are like the UN and Geneva Convention. Okay, I just disagree with that. I do understand the argument there, but I disagree with that argument. I don't think that we can use systems like the UN or systems like the Geneva Convention against America. I just don't see that happening. I would love, trust me, I would love to be wrong about this. If the UN tomorrow all of a sudden decides it wants to actually do something about protecting the members of its charter by holding the United States accountable and doing that with some kind of military teeth, then cool. But the UN does what the United States wants it to. It has become nothing but a mouthpiece that is spouting United States propaganda. That functionally, that's what the UN is and does. Materially, they are paper tigers. Maybe. And you know, I'm not trying to be contrary just to be contrary. I just don't see that as a realistic avenue. And I think I disagree with that. The next president would have to be leftist or a strong Democrat. I don't think that there is anything that a person in a position of power, there's no, and this is, I'm not, please prove me wrong or give me a better argument to change my mind, please. But I don't think that there's anybody that can be put in office as the president of the United States that's going to hold this whole ring of pedophiles accountable. I don't think that anybody is going to hold Trump accountable. I don't think everything that we know of as America is entirely off the rails. Every bit of it. 100% of America off the rails. There's nothing that's going to stop this train. Right? Short of us being annexed by some other powerful nation coming in and militarily occupying America. That's where we are materially. Or the working class in America actually seizing the means of production and having some kind of revolution. Those are the two things. Yeah, Gaza was flattened before Trump was inaugurated. And it's not just, and that's, because yes, that is absolutely true. But it's not, but it's, what do I want to say? How do I want to say this? It's, not just Democrats. That's what I want to say. Is pushing against Matt's last claim. It's because I agree, yeah, right, 100% with Matt's sentiment. Gaza was flattened before Trump was inaugurated, but that's, I don't want to just say that's Democrats' fault, right? And to address Eleni's comment more directly, even if we elected a leftist, like a real for real leftist, if somehow a real leftist was to be president of the United States, I still don't think that would change anything or be any different if we had elected a leftist instead of Obama, right? Maybe at that point, there was some way that we could teeter this hot dumpster fire back on the rails. But Obama really cemented us on this path. Right? And that's, again, going back to Matt's comment, which is absolutely right, absolutely on point, right? And no critiques, but there's a note. And that note is, even if it had been a leftist, that was present, or if we could have, right, at this point, it wouldn't matter. Oh, do you want to delete which one? Yeah, there we go. And you're back. And that I can go back and pull up. I can see those messages too. So in case I need to. Oh, no, that's okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, Eleni. Let's see. Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's okay. I appreciate the apology. I very, very sincerely, very much appreciate the apology. Actually, it is very good. Last chance was maybe 2000 election, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. That we've been on this path for a while, and I just don't. I don't see. Hey, welcome in, Nisa Simpson. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you. I mentioned this to Peacefire Now the other day. Once upon a time, I rolled my eyes at a person with a sign of Obama with a Hitler mustache. Turns out they knew things I didn't understand yet. Right, and that's, yes. And I'm coming to really understand that too. And it's, I don't want to come off as too doomer. Right? I don't want to come off as just naysaying or that, and I don't want, Lainey, please, I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to shut you down or shut this idea down. I'm just trying to be honest about my position and how I feel about it. And I just, based on the material evidence that I've seen, there is no institution, no tradition, nothing is coming to save us. Nothing can. Nothing has the power. Nothing has the authority. Nothing has the global sway. Nothing has the military might to do anything about the situation we are in, except for a massive coalition of nations coming together to oppose the evil empire that is the United States, or an internal revolution where we do it ourselves, which is probably what we're stuck with, right? No one's coming to save us is what we should accept. What we should expect and what we should plan for is that nobody's coming to save us. It's up to us to fix this. I'm just on opium. No, it wasn't good. Thank you for bringing it up then and championing viewpoints, even if you don't completely agree with those viewpoints, because that's what this space is for, right? And to be clear, I would love to be about this. Like I said, if the UN were to actually do something tomorrow, I would be ecstatic, right? I would happily eat my words on this. I just don't think that's possible. If I'm wrong about politics, it's honestly a good thing. It means someone isn't a fascist. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Heard this week that he invested in Palantir. Oh, right. Yeah, because you're still talking about. Oh, right. Okay, Obama. Right. Good. Of course. I feel like UN and Hague and Geneva can do something like to Trump and Netanyahu, but like after that, we would just go right back to the same stuff. Yeah. I mean, and that is kind of the best case scenario that we are facing, right? Actually, is that there might be some degree of accountability for some of the ghouls, but that even if we get that accountability, that's not necessarily going to translate into different material conditions for the rest of us. Yeah, most Biden voters didn't remember Secretary Blinken killed babies. Um, my scariest thought: how many fascists don't even know, because like that's the status quo now. Yes, yes. Well, and that's that the exactly, Nisa, the way that the machine works. Oh, and this is good. No, not me. Or not that. Yeah, me. White fragility. Um, figure it out. White fragility is something that we haven't talked about in a while, but it's something that popped up in my classroom. We were talking about race and affirmative action, and with white fragility, right? Because white people, or let's just start here. Because a system of white supremacy has so efficiently eradicated other people's culture and heritage and background, most white people don't have any idea about themselves. They don't have any cultural identity outside of whiteness. I am a Scottish Celt, and that's something that I cling to as part of my identity very strongly, and for a very important reason, because I don't want to identify as white as part of my identity. I have identity Scottish Celt, but most people, most white people, don't have culture and heritage and history that they care about as part of their identity. Most white Americans are just white, and they see themselves as white. And when we look at the culture of whiteness, it's awful and gross and terrible, right? But it's the only thing that those people have. So when we leftists and other anti-racists are talking about dismantling a system of white supremacy, those people see themselves as targets. They see themselves as under attack, even though they understand that the legacy of whiteness is disgusting. They also identify as white, right? And so if we're dismantling a system of white supremacy, we must be coming after them, right? And this is how white people center themselves in the racial oppression that other non-white people face, is that even when we are trying to dismantle that system of white supremacy that is oppressing non-white people, white people will still make themselves a victim, right? With this white fragility, and this idea that Nisa is talking about is exactly the same kind of thing. That most Americans are fascists. They are fascists and just don't understand that they, right, they have taken these things and made it part of their identity and are now just championing this bullshit. America, right? And they are so uncritical, right? These are people who don't understand identity. They don't understand their relationship to the world. They see things in a real fucked up way, right? Low key, what's the Haig didn't even hold more than 11 Nazis accountable. Right, for the whole Holocaust. That's a great point, Matt. I hadn't even thought about it that way, but that's kind of sad and terrible. And most people that went to The Hague got recruited by the U.S. or Israel in the 50s and 60s. Right, Project Paperclip. We're all familiar with Project Paperclip. Oh, there it is. Low Key Abomination 1 and 2 are banger songs. And True About Obama. I like 2 best, especially with Coupe Fiasco saying Gaza Strip was getting bombed. Obama didn't say shit. Huh. Abomination 1 and 2? Huh. The misadministration of Barack Hussein Obama. Okay. Huh. Well, I'll have to check that. I'd never heard of this. That looks like a good read, huh? Thank you for letting me know about that, Kaimatara. I'll look into that book and see if I can track it down. My ideal 2028 scenario is no incumbents. Well, you might get your wish one way or another, Matt. Kind of getting caught back up now. Okay. That's why I didn't vote for Forum next one either. I'm part of the problem. My problem is I'm peaceful. I don't know that I would say you're part of the problem. Whether or not you vote. This is good. I meant to do this on Wednesday. I had planned on Wednesday to talk about something in particular, and so I'm just going to say a little bit about it right now. James from the Internet. This came up in James from the Internet's channel on Monday or Tuesday, I think, of this week, where there was some conversation about voting and non-voting and the vote blue no matter who. Noisy loved the clip. Oh, awesome. Good. I didn't realize they were already streaming. That's cool. Gonna identify that way because I haven't unraveled my privilege yet. Fair enough. But voting or not voting does not make you a part of the problem. Either way. And the reason why I can say that is because the system is designed to not care about you anyway. And by you, I mean everyone, all of the voters. The system is only designed to get enough people to participate in the system to legitimize the system of voting. That's it. That's the only point, the only goal, the only reason why we do electoralism is so that enough people participate in the process that it legitimizes the process. We don't actually have a say in what the outcome is, right? We all understand that we don't have any democratic control over our representatives or over what they do or how they represent us, right? But the system requires that enough people participate to legitimize it. If you don't participate in the system, you don't get a say in the system. But that doesn't affect the system. When you participate in the system, you don't get a say in the system. It still doesn't affect the system. Right? What you do, whether you vote or not, doesn't matter morally. It doesn't matter politically. It doesn't matter for our material conditions. Well, there are some caveats to this, right? And this goes back to the harm reduction conversation that we keep getting back to over and over and over again, right? If you live in a place where you can vote for someone like Mamdani, then, right, there is some moral advantage to voting for somebody who you believe will actually create conditions that will improve people's material reality, right? But we're still just doing harm reduction. Zoran Mamdani is not a solution. That's not revolution. That's not a step in the right direction against capitalism or against imperialism or any of those things, right? But it is a vote that some people might have a chance to improve the direct material conditions of a few 100,000 people, right? And that's not nothing. That's not nothing, but it's also not revolution. And it's right. We need to be realistic about this, about our actual options and about the actual material moral consequences of how we choose to participate in the system. Yeah. I guess I should actually read it and respond to it, but let me get caught up first. Build Back Better was supposed to be civil rights reform, not just bridges and chips. Yeah. Right. Build Back Better was supposed to be civil rights reform. Was supposed to be. Oh, I didn't see this. White supremacy seeks to monopolize culture. Yes. Right. Yes. That's a wonderful way to articulate it, Jane. White supremacy seeks to monopolize culture in society under the social construct white. Whatever it is that you are is now been subsumed under this label, or not white. You're either white or not white, right? And this is it's the same kind of simplicity, Jane, that that gender discrimination needs. Patriarchy requires that patriarchs can tell who the patriarchs are and who the property is. That's what the gendered binary and the heteronormativity is patriarchy establishing those who are patriarchs and those who are owned, those who are property. That's exactly the same kind of relationship. When it comes to white supremacy, those who are the owners and those who need to be ruled, right? The white savior bullshit. Right, anyways. The white burden, that's what I meant to say. The white burden, the white man's burden is the term I was going to use there. Loops track words I never said, used to track words I never said. Oh, Lupe's track words I never said. Use the line too. I was quoting, sorry. Oh, no worries. It took me a minute to figure out what those words together were trying to say. I've been dating online. I know, gross. And the number one question I receive is, what are you? Oh, really? Ew. Yeah, and I'm sorry that you're dating online, because that is probably not the funnest. Not the funnest. I stuck my toes in the water of dating online, and right. So I was excited to get some attention, but most of the attention that I've gotten has just been unsolicited dick pics. So it's not what I'm looking for. But that is also pretty gross. What are you? What a disgusting question, right? Don't you care anything about me, about my personality, the kind of things that I like to do, the things that I'm into, the things that I actually care about? You just care what's in my pants. I got it. Okay. All right, yeah. At least we know right out the gate. We got this out the way. There's not a whole lot of pretending going on, where do I fit? White or not white, or white passing. It's very important to everyone, apparently, and we know why. Yes, absolutely. It's a matter of trying to fit in the hierarchy. One of my students, it's the first time this has come up in the discussion board, and I was so happy. But one of my students who is light-skinned was talking about privilege. That's last week's discussion board was on privilege, and that's the privilege that they brought up, was that they're light-skinned, and because of them being light-skinned, at work their ideas are taken more seriously, and their white friends listen to them and just accept what they have to say without question or critique. But when he's in a group of other people and it's a mixed crowd, he can see the racism. He can see his relative privilege, even though he doesn't get the full privilege of white supremacy. He recognizes, right, and somebody conveying this in a discussion board is a powerful message that I could never replicate, right? Somebody speaking to this, that they see their slight light-skinnedness as a privilege, because we live in a system of white supremacy that cares about where you fit, right? Exactly. I'm ethically ambiguous, mostly Maori, but look Middle Eastern or South American. So even other Maori ask me which country I'm from. Yeah, right? And Nika, Jam Tomb, Ghost Pepper Lollipop. I'll get it right eventually. Ghost Pepper Lollipop, that's one of the things that they've talked about too, because they're very light-skinned. They're kind of pale-ish. And other indigenous people question her all of the time, right? Despite the fact that she is, has a card, is an indigenous person, has the blood quantums, quote unquote, to prove it, but still gets some kind of discrimination in that same kind of way. And it's those right, Kaimatara, this kind of situation it's still white supremacy. Just because it's not a white person that's enforcing those things doesn't mean it's not. And you know this, I'm not telling you it. I'm not explaining anything to you, but for everybody else, right? That it's an expression of white supremacy, and because we are in that system, everyone is in that system, and you can't disassociate from that system. Because of that consequence, people do see themselves in a situation where in antagonism with everybody around them, and they see a need to perform a certain kind of ritual or routine, or what's the word that I'm looking for? There's a sociology word here that I don't remember, but they perform the social thing that they feel like they're supposed to execute, so that they can secure their position in the hierarchy. And even though it's an oppressed position in the hierarchy, they still want to be in the hierarchy, because if you're not in the hierarchy, you're at the bottom, right? So this is the reason why mothers, right? That the greatest perpetuators of misogyny and patriarchy are mothers who fulfill the role of oppressed under the patriarch, but they are not at the bottom if they perform their role of recreating the system and getting the children to fall in line with the system, right? It's not performance. I can't think of what the word. There's a it's like like a rite of passage, but it's not. It's a regular social thing that happens all of the time or continually. Man, I can't think of what the word is. That's all right. It'll come to me later. When I was about the same age as eye-rolling Obama, I was also very confused why every job interview began with, "Where are you from?" instead of "Hello." So much is totally subconscious. That's another good point too, right? Began with, "Where are you from?" Right. Well, and it's important. It's important for you. What I mean by this is, like you said, you kind of come off as white passing, right? You look white enough, but white people are all suspicious of each other. Right, in that vying for space and vying for the hierarchy, right? White people are all suspicious of each other by nature, and this is the oh man, I knew we were going to get to Foucault. This is the reality enforcement aspect. That's not the word that Foucault uses. That's the word that Betcher, Talia Betcher uses. I don't remember the word that Foucault uses. But it's the we talked about it on stream, where the in all boys schools in France is one of the examples that Michelle uses, and in these schools the administrators don't do any of the punishing. That they don't dole out the punishments. They leave it to the older children to dole out the punishments to the younger children, which is evil as fuck, right? Because children are brutal, right? Are terrible. Treat other children terribly, especially if you give them free rein. And this was the hazing process for the young boys' academies, and the young boys' academies turned out all boys that were all the same way, right? They all turned out the same way, and they all turned out the same way because you either fall in line or you spend your entire life being tortured, and we all know where that goes, right? Those kids aren't going to make it to graduation. Right, so they're making the children assimilate the other children in this process, and the brutality is an integral part of it, to make the children be brutal to the other children, to normalize this early on in their life so that they become accustomed to being abused and to constantly looking for opportunities to dole out abuse, because that's the way that you move up in the hierarchy in these kinds of all-boys schools, is by being the one to always point out and therefore get to discipline other boys for misbehaving, for not performing, for not conforming, for not jumping through the hoops. Hey, welcome in, Nova Rider. Good to see you. Life in Nazi Germany is just as bad as it was last time you asked. It's terrible here. Okay, good. We still got time. From this country, sure, but where are you from? Right, that's like the Key and Peele. Was that Key and Peele? No, it wasn't. What was the... I think it was just some viral thing back. You guys remember Vines? Maybe that's what it was. There's a funny video that I'm thinking of, but I'm not going to be able to look it up without taking a long detour. So I'll pull that up later. The thing I'm thinking of, maybe. That's what makes it too blatant for me. For example, I'm white but not Aryan, so question, error, seasoning, seasoning detected. Right, and that's exactly right. If you don't play the role of white in the right way, right? If you don't play the role of white in the right way, it does set off alarm bells. I set off alarm bells for people all of the time, which is one of the reasons why well, it's no point going off that way, but yeah, there's I've been in a number of situations where people bring things up casually. I'm trying a specific example. Let me use a specific example. When I worked for GameStop, I had the opportunity, the unfortunate opportunity once to work with a store manager who was a blatant racist, who was openly, blatantly racist. Of course, I didn't know this, but it didn't take long. 5 minutes. 5 minutes hanging out with this dude, and it was obvious. And it's this kind of person starts off subtle, right? They make little remarks, or they make little comments, and they are expecting you to go along with it. They're expecting you to, because a lot of people are just compliant, right? Especially in work settings, if you're working with somebody, right? You're just like, yeah, okay, whatever. A lot of people are agreeable, right? That's the word. People are consciously agreeable. And this kind of open racist will make comments expecting you to be agreeable. And people often are. Neurotypicals, people who just are on autopilot, who are just looking for the social cues and go along with the social cues, like those people blend in fucking perfectly. I don't blend in. What do you mean? What do you mean by those people? Could you explain that? I don't think I got that. You're laughing, but I don't think that that's a joke, right? It's very clear when people are hanging out with me that no, I'm not going to be agreeable with the racist things that you believe or say. Fuck you, actually. Hope the text-to-speech work helps people learn Maori word pronunciation a bit better. I'm really looking forward to that too. That's probably what I'm going to want to dedicate my time to, or a good bit of my time on next Wednesday is going over that. Because I'm really excited to check out the voice-to-speak, voice-to-text. That's weird. I didn't get a notification. Nova Rider, thank you for the bits. Or maybe it did. And I don't think I heard the... Well, thank you for the bits, Nova Rider. It's always appreciated. How are you doing, Nova Rider? You're always asking how we're doing over here in Nazi Germany, but it's terrible. How are you doing? Is your country not descending into fascism like we are? Because I'm pretty sure it's happening everywhere. The compliance is so baked in. Same people who don't even know they're operating as a fascist. Right. It's that exact same kind of thing. Well, and going back to the insecurity, it's most people are very insecure just in general, right? And this is something that I think that we've all iterated a little bit in our own lives. That, you know, I've mentioned I've got some imposter syndrome, and sometimes I'm like, do I even deserve to be here? Do I even deserve to call myself a professor? Right? These insecurities are part of the system that we're built into, right? Because if we feel empty and insecure, we go out and spend money, because that's what the system gives us as catharsis for the fact that our identities are weak and fragile and are constantly under attack, right? That and it takes a lot of energy. That's something else. It takes to not be just compliant takes energy. To be critical about the information that you're given takes energy. To listen to people's jokes, right, so that you can listen out for sexism or racism or whatever, right, that takes work. People are exhausted most of the time from just trying to survive. And that's part of the system too. So that those people never look up from their own oppression. That's the way that the system is designed, is they never look up from their own oppression. They only ever reach out to spend money so that they can salve their tortured egos a little bit, right? That's it, right? So that they never look up from their own individual oppression. The realization that people ought to be having is that your problems with housing insecurity are not, that's not a discrete problem that applies only to you as an individual. It's a massive systemic problem that needs a systemic response, right? That needs people to recognize that they are in the boat together with other people. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. There's barely any in my Reaper article, but the Why I Stopped Rebelling article will have more Maori words. But the Reaper one is a good starting point, so you can hear the new TTS next stream. Fantastic. Good. Yeah, if you've got the other one ready by then, I might do both. We'll see. But if not, that'll be a good starting point too. I meant to by now have already talked about a whole bunch more stuff that I haven't talked about yet. We haven't even begun to go over this. I'll probably post this in Discord so you all can read it. I wish that I could still write like this, and maybe I will get back into it at some point. But it's been a long time since I've been able to write with this kind of competency. But there was another thing that I wanted to do right now. Right now. Oh, I want to go back to our document. So that we can, because I'm getting to the point where I kind of need to start wrapping stuff up. But not yet. We still have another 20 or 30 minutes. before I need to dip. There we go. Okay, so right, so we'll spend some time speaking that the roadmap. That what I'm trying to do here is work out a kind of a roadmap for where we're going, and and after stream sometime this weekend, I'll come up with some kind of actual plan of action, so far as, you know, this week we'll talk about this, and then this week we'll talk about this, and then the week after that we'll talk about the next thing. But I don't want to get us too formal either. I like that we, every time I start stream, it's an adventure. I don't know where we're gonna go. I don't know where all are gonna take me. So I don't want to try to lock anything into too concretely, because I enjoy our flexibility too. But oh, right. This is something that I don't think is really that important for us to continue to flesh out much more. Only that SocDem and DemSoc are both not really socialism, or not really the kind of socialism that I'm interested in pursuing. Of course, I think that we should entertain some other kinds of pushback about that. You know, democratic socialism has some potential to be something different than just more capitalism, but I think that any kind of social democracy is really just more state capitalism. And any way that we try to envision social democracy, we are just reorganizing capitalism, reorganizing the systems of oppression, making no actual progress. Here's where we are going to start fleshing out some of the stuff with regard to the state. So a lot of this, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to a point where this stuff can become notes that is at the bottom of our outline, rather than stuff at the top of our outline that needs to be sorted through so that we can fill out the outline. And I think that most of this can just get put down there, but we need to work out some of this stuff with the state first. I think that that's going to be probably next Friday. We'll do a hard deep dive into just state. What do we mean? What do we mean, for fuck's sake? And we'll work out some of this stuff. Right, that brings us to here, back to our socialist ontology. And when we're trying to work out this socialist ontology, this is the biggest change, because I really like the way that Jane has constructed this sentence, but there's a lot still in the sentence that needs unpacking. And so I've did some unpacking here, right? Socialism whenever either the workers or the people both own, and by own have immediate access, not mediated through some kind of representative democracy, right? That's what I mean here by immediate access. The people are the levers of society, right? And that's the proletariat. That's what the proletariat is the levers of society. And this is a quick aside, going back to the conversation that we started to have about bullshit jobs, right? That COVID showed many people just how useless and worthless and meaningless their jobs are, because they didn't go to work for a month and nobody cared, right? But some people are actually essential for function of society, right? And as a professor or a teacher, I'm one of the ones that's considered an essential worker. But to be fair, to be honest about that position, it's not because I'm seen as so important in culture and society. I'm essential because I'm seen as a babysitter. I'm seen as a place for people to be, so that those people aren't just milling around with nothing to do. And it's very important, right? That this aspect, that the government understands that it's necessary to keep as many people engaged in doing shit as they possibly can. Because if you have people standing around with nothing to do, well, those people get informed. Those people find something to do. And usually informed people that find something to do create their own kind of power structures that don't require the government. The government can't have that. It needs people doing things to maintain the system, right? And that's, as an instructor, as a teacher, and this is true for teachers K through 12, all the way up through higher education, right? We are a place for people to be, so that those people have something to do, and that they don't have time to inform themselves and to catch a breath from the rat race, right? It's really important for people to stay in their own oppression and not have time to look up and meander about. But there are other jobs that are absolutely necessary for the function of society. And those other jobs are plumbers and butchers and lawyers and doctors and surgeons. And those people fucking matter. Those people are important. Those people need to go to work. And where there was a point I was getting with this. Oh, the bullshit jobs, right? So that we can talk about in not mediated access, right? Those people on whom society rests. So I was going to say economy but we don't give a shit about economy, right? The people that actually uphold society by going to work and birthing children and running daycares and helping people advocate for their own rights, with lawyers and those people are the economy. Those people are society. I'm doing a terrible job of making the point. The point is, we don't need the state, right? For those people to go to work and do their jobs, plumbers and lawyers and doctors don't need the state. They don't need bosses. They don't need managers. And that's the immediate aspect of this, right? When we're talking about that people own the economic functions of society, right? Is that's immediate. That people see themselves as the levers of society, because people are the levers of society, not Congress, not the government, not the president, No, all of those are just roles, and those are all supposed to be tools that are supposed to be beholden to the people. If a state, quote unquote, is to do the thing that it's supposed to do, all of those positions are supposed to be levers for the people to have access and control to their changing their own material conditions directly, and they're not. Right? Hence the mediated aspect. People don't have immediate ownership, right, and control. But when we're talking about control, it can't be a limited kind of control, right? For this to be the kind of telos, the kind of utopian tomorrow at which we should appropriately be directed, then that control should include full liberty to move within, to manipulate, to disassociate from, or to abolish the system. Right? It has to be unfettered control, limitless control. And this is, what do I mean by this? What do I want to say about this? So, one of the problems that I have with the idea of state, I didn't want to have a whole long conversation about state just yet, but one of the problems that I have with conceptions of the state is that it generally is a formal, established body that is somewhat divorced from the people themselves. It's something that's propped up. It's or no, let's think about it this way. Let's talk about ethics for a minute. One of the problems that Immanuel Kant has with previous moral philosophies, when Kant is devising deontology, the problem that Immanuel Kant has with other kinds of other kinds of morality, other kinds of moral frameworks, is that it is a thing which is independent of the thinker. It is a thing to which the rational agent is beholden. If we are using utilitarianism to help us solve our moral differences, then we are not doing ethics. We give up the power to do ethics to this external framework. We give the power to utilitarianism to determine for us what is right and wrong. And this is not freedom. This is not liberty. This is not living authentically. This is absolving oneself of the responsibility of making the moral determination for oneself. Right? Which you are supposed to do. You're the moral agent. You are the one who is going to be held morally accountable if something is wrong, or, right. If you've done something wrong, you will be held to account. Not the Bible, not utilitarianism, not whatever justification you use to not make the decision. And that's not liberty. That's not freedom. That is being beholden to a system. And with most conceptions of state, that's what we're talking about, is a formal structure, and people can use that structure in different kinds of ways. But with a lot of state structures, that is an apparatus that is itself unquestionable, unchallengeable. That once established, this system is now that by which we make decisions. So we can't make decisions about this thing because this is the thing by which we make decisions, right? And this is the situation that the state locks us in, is that at any point, if at any point free people in a free society establish some kind of formal framework which is separate, independent from the people themselves, then that thing becomes that by which we make decisions. That thing will not let itself go away, right? It becomes the faculty of our apprehension that we use to apprehend the world. I've made a few leaps there. I'll have to unpack that later. I remember wanting a break from school even before the pandemic during my freshman year of high school due to the fact that I was fucking overwhelmed. And the fact that I had to do school anyway was just an insult to my soul. Right. Yeah, actually, yes. Yes. Well, and I remember feeling that for a long time I was conflicted. And what I mean is so I'm recalling the first full semester. So for me, the lockdown happened mid-semester. I was teaching an in-person class, several actually in-person classes. We went on break, and we never came back from break because lockdown happened, and we did the rest of that semester distance learning, and then all of so the next semester, the first full semester after COVID. There was a point in teaching where it was difficult for me to not advocate for my students to take to the streets, right? There was a point where I was like, why are any of you still doing your homework? Why are any of you still showing up? Society is collapsing. What the fuck are you doing here in class? Society is collapsing. Why are you going to school? Stop. Go. The world is falling apart. Why are you showing up to class? What is wrong with you? Right? But then I'm still showing up too, right? And so there was, for me, it was, there was at this point of conflictingness where in some ways I wondered if it wasn't the better thing, if maybe the moral choice for me as an instructor was to just stop teaching, was for me to go on strike as an instructor. That, dude, fuck all this. No, society is falling apart. I'm not going to teach classes anymore, right? But also I've got bills to pay. I can't afford to just not eat. So I don't know. Anyways, that was a little bit of a tangent I didn't mean to go off of. March 2020, yeah. Yeah, and that's so anyways, Jane, I completely sympathize. Because it was hard for me to show up. And I remember trying to be very, very sensitive to my students about, because I would teach Zoom, and when students would actually show up to the Zoom class, I would be like, thank you Thank you so much for, just showing up. Because it's not fun to teach class to nobody. Right? But I have to, right? The nature of the online teaching, if students elect for that option, then you show up and teach, and if the students don't show up, it doesn't matter, right? It's just very disheartening to show up and pretend to lecture to a room of nobody. It's soul crushing as well. But I also remember, on the flip side, I remember my sister. She's got two kids. And my sister was talking about how hard it was for them, for her children, because their whole world is school and their friends at school, right? That's and even it was kind of an interesting situation for one of them. They were facing some bullying. They were, gender nonconforming, and so they were facing some harassment and bullying at school. But at the same time, that's also where their social security network was, right? The people that helped them, gave them mental health support, right? That gave them affirming, that they were able to affirm them and to help them cement their identity and to make them feel seen. All of that just went away, right? And they didn't have access to their friends or to their support groups or to their, whatever it was. So there was some, it was flip side, right? It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm still kind of baffled that that people continue to go to their jobs. Right? That I get being a student, for some people that find that to be rewarding, that really enjoy. I didn't want to graduate. If I could have gone on and been a student for the rest of my life, bet. I loved being a student, being on campus, having to do the papers and having to do the research, and that's fun for me, and that's what I thought academia was gonna be. It's not not for me, but it's that's part of, because of the choice I made. I could have been a researcher, right, instead of being an instructor, but you really can't do both. I can't. I haven't been able to figure out how to balance both anyway. All right, so that was me going on a tangent about this, right? When we're talking about control, when workers both own, and that means have immediate access, and control. And by control, we mean at full liberty to move within, to manipulate, to disassociate from, or to abolish the system or the state, I think, is probably the more appropriate thing to have here. But I'm not sure yet that I feel that that's the right. I want to work through some of this stuff with regard to the state before I do any state stuff down here in the actual outline. But I did go ahead and change this to socialism for us. I think that's what do I want to say about this? Let me go back to the document. So, and this is something that when people come into stream and they express that they are socialist or that they see themselves as a socialist, one of the things that I ask is, okay, are you a socialist who sees socialism as an end in itself, or are you the kind of socialist that sees socialism as a means to an end, as a stepping stone to communism or to some other thing? Because the latter is my position. I'm not socialist. I don't want to be a socialist, and I don't think socialism is the right way for society to be organized. I believe that socialism is a far superior organization to what we have, right? In a lot of ways, far morally superior especially. But it's also not the end goal for me. I'm an anarchist. I want us to have an anarchist organization in the end. But anarchism is not viable for our material conditions today. Anarchism is way too far away. Hopefully that wasn't too loud for all you. It's way too far away, too many steps. But socialism is a step closer in that direction toward anarchism, toward communism, right? And I also don't see myself as a communist. I don't think that communism is the right organization for society. Far superior to what we have, abso-fucking-lutely, right? But also not the end state that I want to see. It's, to me, just another stepping stone. And when we talk about where we would go from communism, generally what I say is, well, I don't even have nearly enough information to know what that will mean. Where are we going to be, and what does that communism look like, right? I would just be making a bunch of speculative guesses about states of affairs, and there's no. I'm not going to be able to make productive assessments about the material reality of a situation that I can barely even imagine. Right? I don't know what the world will be like under socialism or under communism. But this is a long way of me saying that I support and endorse socialism and a move towards socialism, and that's where I think our energies that's I think a worthwhile use for our energies is trying to develop a coherent idea of socialism and move people toward a coherent idea of socialism. Because from my analysis of the situation we are in, that's going to be the closest thing from where I would like to be, right, with regards to what is actually possible in our current material conditions. Anarchy would have communism, though. I would say so. Yes, I believe necessarily. Like, absolutely necessarily. Yeah. So I also want to draw some attention to this part in purple before we move on. So a lot of you are familiar with reading theory. And so I'm not going to try to insult any of your intelligence. But for anyone who is not familiar with formal logic structures, right? There are probably a lot of us that read theory that are somewhat familiar with logic, but myself included. it's one thing I say about myself is I'm an adept logician. I am not a good one by any means. I'm barely competent, actually. But I can get the job done so far as doing logic, but I am not a very good logician. I am competent, at least. But I wanted to be more clear about what was going on in this paragraph, because I read it on stream and we didn't spend a lot of time unpacking it, and I just want to make sure everybody is on board with what I'm trying to say and do here, right? So setting out criteria of inclusion would be making a positive account of socialism, something we understand we can't do and shouldn't do. For the things that we've discussed exhaustively. At any point, anyone can cast off the fetters of their oppression, after which threshold they are now engaged in struggle against their oppression. So this is a descriptive premise, where we are beginning our logical construction from a premise, where we are looking at states of affairs as they are in the world, and using that as a starting point for what we should do about this state of affairs, right? And so this is our descriptive premise. And there is a positive assertion that will need some kind of justification. We will need to offer a robust justification for this positive assertion. We are positing that no one has the authority to determine who should be included in that struggle, right? When one is engaged in the struggle against their own oppression. No one has the authority to determine who should be included in that struggle, and no one has the power to require of others that they do so. Right, so this is a positive assertion that I would make, and I would base this on a kind of universalizable maxim in the kind of way that we would use. The Immanuel Kant would come up with a kind of categorical imperative to this normative conclusion, rather than being deciders of who is or isn't genuinely opposing capitalism. And we'll see what we want to do with this here. Leftists distinguish themselves by engaging with the struggle, not supposed to be socialists, distinguish themselves by engaging with the struggle against oppression. They do so in part by not abetting the oppressor, by engaging in identity politics, infighting, or policing socialism. And though it's leftism is kind of still fitting here, familiar with some logic, law of identity, law of non-contradiction, and law of excluded middle. Right. So yeah, and that means that you are going to be on probably the higher echelon when it comes to understanding logic in relation to theory, because most people, well, I don't want to just say that. Okay. I've noticed that my students, right, my students can often pick out a fallacy. Right? Even if they can't identify what the fallacy is or can't explain why the fallacy is a fallacy, a lot of times students can still pick the fallacy out. When they read one in theory, they go, wait a minute, there's been some kind of switch here. Something isn't, something isn't adding up. And so that's a good baseline intuition for people who read theory. Can usually, even if they can't identify the fallacy or explain the fallacy, something's wrong here, right? And so you being able to law of identity, non-contradiction is really pretty important and kind of overlooked in logic. And excluded middle, I think, is one of the that's not just logic 101, right? That's actually kind of beyond the basic 101 simple stuff. So that's a pretty good baseline comparatively to where most people are coming from their theory. Right. So this won't need justification, and the reason why this won't need justification is because this will be adequately justified. If this middle part has been adequately justified, then the conclusion will necessarily follow, which it will. Right, it will. We'll just have to flesh out a full, thorough defense of this idea, which I have in mind to do so. But we still haven't overcome this, right? So we have this idea of rather than a positive account, right? This is giving a general direction with a massive exclusion. So there's a general direction, a massive exclusion, but no positive attributes as to what leftism or what socialism is or means, right? We're not defining, so to speak. But this is the other, this will give us the other threshold on the other side. Right, we've got one large area of exclusion. Jane's consideration here, well, but so shouldn't we critique authoritarian leftists? Yes, we absolutely should. But we'll have to figure out what that is and how to establish that, and that's here in this part, right? Implies that there is a right and wrong way to be a socialist. And yes, there is a right and wrong way to be a socialist. And one example of a wrong way to be a socialist is to think that social democracy is going to come and save the day. Right, because social democracy, as we've talked about, is not really very different from state capitalism. It's state capitalism with extra steps, right? There might be representative democracy in a social democracy, but if it's a representative democracy, we still have mediation between the people or the workers and control of the levers of society. Okay. Bye, Nisa. Have a great rest of your day. It's good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you later. Good to see you. Right. So this down here. Right. And we'll work on this. This is kind of where we are going next. This consideration. Of course, we should critique authoritarian leftists, and that's going to bring us to the categories of exclusion. But before we can get there, I think that we've got to hammer out these concerns about the state first. Good. Okay. All right, I'm really kind of out of time. I really wanted to show off my writing. Really, that's what it is. There's not a lot that I wrote in undergrad that is even good, let alone that I'm proud of. But this particular work, right, and I'll tease it a little bit. So I've mentioned that when I was in undergraduate, I had the privilege of having Todd May as an instructor, who is an authority on Michel Foucault, who is an authority on anarchism, who is an authority on nonviolence. Actually, I'm about to order his book on nonviolence so I can go over that in stream. We're more than a month away from me being able to come close to touching that, but that is something that I have on the radar for soon. But anyways, so I had Todd May for several different classes, as many classes as I could take with this instructor I did. And of all of the essays that I wrote, I got 1 A+, and it's a paper that when the professor gave it back to me, specifically said, "This was really good work. This is the best thing you've ever written." And like this, that has stuck with me. Keep in mind, this has been like 22 years, right? It's been well, not that long, but it's been a long time since I was an undergraduate. And this has still stuck with me. This moment when my instructor saw me and praised my work. And this is an instructor who doesn't give out A's on essays generally at all, and definitely doesn't praise people's work. And so it's, yeah, I'm gonna post it in the Discord so that you all can get a good read. And I have eliminated the cover page, so I get to maintain a little bit of anonymity, right? Just a little bit, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna post this in Discord, but I'm gonna do that after I wrap up stream, and I'm gonna find a raid target for us right now so that we can find somebody to go stream into. Man, I'm so tired. Right? This has been a good stream. I was really pretty upset and frustrated about having to cancel Wednesday's stream. I know right where we're gonna go. There's one other place that I want to look and see. Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay. Good. But what a great stream anyway. I love when I show up with stuff to do and then we don't get to do that because we are just talking and having a conversation. So thank you all for doing that, for being here and having a conversation with me and giving me something to talk about, and to push back on my ideas and to challenge me with other perspectives. Even if they're not perspectives that you adamantly believe yourself, that's cool, right? Like Eleni came in and was talking about this perspective, and then I was going against that perspective, and then Eleni's like, well, hold on, I'm not defending that too hard, right? And that's good, right? That we can bring these things up, we can talk about them, we can challenge each other, and we should. So please don't stop doing that. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your patience, for bearing with me when I just have to not stream sometimes. I thank you for showing up when I show up. So thank you. I just love you all. And I'm gonna stop talking and just get out of here. So I'll see you guys soon. And until the next time I see you, be excellent to each other.